The mockery. The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. Their massive fleet of standardized warships enforced peace across 17 sectors, and their technological superiority was unquestioned. When humanity finally achieved faster-than-light travel and joined the galactic community, they were met not with fanfare, but with condescension. Earth's first diplomatic vessel arrived at the Imperial capital on Centaurus Prime amid snickers and outright laughter from the Empire's officials. Admiral Vextar, the Empire's foremost military strategist, didn't even bother to hide his disdain as he circled the human ship in the docking bay. "You call this a spacecraft?" he said, his four eyes blinking in sequence, the Centaurian equivalent of rolling one's eyes. "It's asymmetrical, inefficient, and utterly primitive. How did you even make it here without disintegrating?" Captain Ilara Chen, commander of Earth's prototype vessel Resilience, maintained her composure. At 42, she had spent her entire career designing and testing experimental propulsion systems. The Resilience represented humanity's greatest achievement, a ship built not according to established galactic principles, but based on humanity's own unique approach to physics. "The Resilience may not look like your standardized vessels, Admiral," she replied evenly, "but I assure you, she's more capable than appearances suggest." The Admiral's translator conveyed his dismissive grunt. "Earth technology is like watching children stack blocks. Charming, perhaps, but hardly worthy of serious consideration." Behind Chen, her crew tried not to bristle at the insult. Lieutenant Malik Okafor, the ship's chief engineer, whispered, "Let him laugh." They all laughed at the Wright brothers, too. The meeting with the Imperial Council went no better. Humans were granted provisional membership in the Empire, a polite way of saying they would be tolerated but not respected. Their ships would be restricted to designated trade routes, their colonies limited to systems the Empire deemed non-strategic, and their technological development would be guided by Imperial standards. "You must understand," said Councillor Drav, the eldest of the Imperial authorities, his translucent skin shimmering under the council chamber's lights. "These restrictions are for your own protection. Your vessels are unpredictable, and unpredictability leads to accidents." Captain Chen knew what the councillor was really saying: conform or be contained. The Empire had spent millennia perfecting its ship designs according to rigid mathematical principles. Deviations were not tolerated. Earth's diplomatic team accepted the terms. They had little choice. But privately, Earth's leadership had no intention of abandoning their own technological path. Human innovation had always thrived by challenging established principles, by finding the exceptions to the rules. 6 months later, the Resilience had been upgraded with new systems developed on Earth, systems that deliberately ignored Imperial design protocols. The ship's quantum core operated on principles that Imperial scientists considered unstable, if not impossible. Its hull incorporated adaptive materials that could reconfigure at the molecular level, and its defensive systems utilized energy states that the Empire had dismissed as theoretical. "They think we're primitive because we don't follow their rulebook," Chen told her crew as they prepared for their first independent mission. "But our greatest strength has always been that we write our own rules." The mission was straightforward. Establish a research outpost on Ta City VII, a world on the edge of Imperial space. What the Empire didn't know was that Earth had detected unusual energy signatures from a nearby nebula, signatures that suggested technologies predating even the Empire itself. 3 days into their journey, the Resilience picked up a distress signal. Imperial protocol explicitly forbade deviation from approved flight plans, but Chen didn't hesitate. "Plot intercept course," she ordered. The signal led them to a crippled Imperial research vessel. Its main drive had failed, leaving it drifting dangerously close to a neutron star's gravity well. The ship had minutes before it would cross the point of no return. "Imperial vessel," Chen hailed. "This is Earth ship Resilience. We're moving to assist." The response was immediate and dismissive. "Earth vessel, Your assistance is not required. An Imperial rescue flotilla is en route. Lieutenant Sophia Rice, the Resilience's communications officer, muted the channel. Captain, I've analyzed their trajectory. They'll be pulled into the neutron star before any Imperial rescue arrives. They know that, Chen replied grimly. They'd rather die than be saved by primitive humans. The neutron star's radiation was already increasing, bathing the Imperial vessel in deadly particles. Standard Imperial shields weren't designed to handle such extreme conditions for extended periods. Chen could see the flickering of their failing defense grid. Prepare for emergency extraction, she ordered, whether they want our help or not. As the Resilience maneuvered closer, the Imperial vessel's commander appeared on screen. His features were strained, his normally blue complexion taking on a sickly purple hue from radiation exposure. Captain, he said formally, I am Commander Loxtel of the Imperial Science vessel Axiom. I must decline your assistance. Imperial protocols state. With all due respect, Commander, Chen interrupted. In approximately 11 minutes, your ship will pass the Schwarzschild radius of that neutron star. Your shields will fail in 8. I suggest we set aside protocols for the moment. Impossible, Loxtel said. Our calculations give us at least 30 minutes before reaching critical distance. Your calculations, Chen replied evenly, don't account for the gravimetric anomalies this particular neutron star is producing. Look at your own sensors. You know I'm right. There was a long pause as the Imperial commander consulted his instruments. His expression shifted from dismissal to concern, then to barely concealed panic. Even if you're correct, he finally said, your vessel cannot possibly generate the power needed to counteract such gravitational forces. The Empire's most advanced Tau ships would struggle with this extraction. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Commander, I believe this is where human unpredictability might surprise you. As the Resilience moved closer to the stricken vessel, Admiral Vextar's voice suddenly joined the communication. Captain Chen, I am monitoring this situation from Imperial Command. Your interference is not authorized. You will withdraw immediately. I'm afraid I can't do that. Admiral, Chen replied. There are 200 lives at stake, and they are Imperial lives under Imperial jurisdiction. Vextar snapped. Your primitive vessel will only add to the casualty count. The Axiom carries classified research that cannot fall into uncleared hands. Chen knew what was really happening. The Admiral would rather lose a ship and crew than allow humans to demonstrate capabilities that challenged Imperial technological supremacy. Admiral, she said firmly, I understand your concerns, but in 11 minutes, this will be a rescue mission in name only. It will be a recovery operation. Before Vextar could respond, Chen signaled Lieutenant Okafor, activate the QGP system. Captain, Okafor cautioned, the quantum gravity pulse is still experimental. We've never tested it under these conditions. No time like the present, Lieutenant, Chen replied. Sometimes you have to jump before you look. As Chen gave the order, across the galaxy, on Earth's L5 orbital station, Chief Scientist Dr. Maya Patel received an urgent notification. The Resilience was activating the QGP system in an actual rescue scenario. She immediately assembled her team to monitor what would happen next. They're really doing it, she whispered. After all the simulations, they're actually trying it. Back on the Resilience, the ship's unique engine configuration began to glow with a blue-green light that no Imperial engineer would recognize. The Empire had built their technology on principles of predictability and control. Human engineering embraced adaptation and chance. The QGP system represented the epitome of that philosophy, harnessing quantum uncertainty itself as a power source. As the system powered up, the neutron star's radiation intensified. The Imperial vessel's shields were failing faster than predicted. Chen knew they had only one shot at this. All hands, brace for gravitational distortion, she announced. Then, turning to Okafor, she gave a single nod. Do it. The Resilience shuddered as the quantum gravity pulse fired, creating a temporary disruption in the fabric of space-time itself. For one brief moment, the laws of physics seemed to bend around the two ships. On the Imperial Command Center, alarms blared as their sensors registered something that should have been impossible. Admiral Vextar stared at the readings in disbelief. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "This can't be happening." The vindication. The space between the neutron star and the two vessels rippled like disturbed water. The Resilience's hull glowed with energy as its adaptive materials redistributed the strain. Inside, the crew felt only mild turbulence despite the enormous forces at work. On the Imperial vessel Axiom, Commander Loxtel watched in astonishment as his ship's sensors recorded data that contradicted everything he had been taught about physics. The humans had somehow created a localized pocket of altered gravity, not just shielding from the neutron star's pull, but actively counteracting it. "Impossible," he whispered, as the death sentence hanging over his ship suddenly lifted. Admiral Vextar's voice crackled over the comms, tight with fury. "Captain Chen, explain what you are doing. Our sensors indicate a critical violation of the laws of physics." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Not a violation, Admiral. Just an exception that your science hasn't explored." The quantum gravity pulse operated on principles Earth scientists had developed in isolation from galactic standards. Where Imperial technology worked to harness and control natural forces, human innovation had focused on working with nature's inherent unpredictability. The QGP didn't fight the neutron star's gravity directly. It created quantum entanglement between particles in the ship's immediate vicinity and corresponding particles in normal space, essentially allowing them to borrow positioning from outside the gravity well. "Tractor beam engaged," Lieutenant Okafor reported. "We've got them." Slowly, defying what Imperial science deemed possible, the Resilience pulled the much larger Axiom away from the neutron star's deadly embrace. Every Imperial scientist watching the telemetry was recording the data in disbelief. This single event challenged millennia of established principles. "We're clear of the critical radius," Chen announced. "Commander Loxtel, your ship should now be able to reinitialize your emergency systems." On screen, the Imperial commander's expression had transformed from skepticism to something humans had never seen on a Centaurian face before: respect. "Captain Chen," he said formally, "the Axiom and her crew are in your debt. I do not understand how your vessel accomplished this, but I am grateful." 3 days later, both ships arrived at the nearest Imperial station. The story of the rescue had already spread throughout the sector. When Chen stepped onto the station's main concourse, she found not the usual dismissal, but a crowd of curious Imperial officers and scientists. Admiral Vextar was waiting, flanked by senior Imperial researchers. His demeanor had changed markedly since their first meeting. "Captain Chen," he said, with the careful formality of someone reevaluating a fundamental assumption, "the Empire requests a full technical briefing on the capabilities demonstrated by your vessel." Chen had anticipated this moment. "I would be happy to provide an overview, Admiral. However, some aspects of our technology remain proprietary to Earth." Vextar's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "You misunderstand, Captain. This isn't a request between equals. The Empire requires full disclosure of potentially destabilizing technologies." Dr. Nari Patel, Earth's chief scientific liaison to the Empire and sister to Maya Patel, stepped forward. "What the Admiral means to say is that the Empire is concerned about technologies they don't control." "The human ship performed actions that our science calls impossible," said Professor Jean-Ter, the Empire's leading physicist who had been summoned to investigate. "Either your vessel violated natural laws, or our understanding of those laws is incomplete. Both possibilities are unsettling." "Perhaps," Chen suggested, "both our perspectives have validity. Your science has created remarkable stability across thousands of worlds. Our approach embraces chance and adaptation. Different paths to the same destination. Stability is the cornerstone of Imperial progress," Vextar insisted. Unpredictable technologies lead to chaos. And yet, Dr. Patel countered, it was our unpredictable technology that saved 200 imperial lives when your predictable methods would have failed. The debate raged for days, moving from technical discussions to philosophical arguments about the nature of innovation itself. The Empire had built its technological dominance on standardization. Every ship, every weapon, every computer core manufactured to identical specifications across thousands of worlds. Variation was seen as weakness, a potential point of failure. Earth had taken the opposite approach. Human innovation celebrated diversity, experimentation, and even failure as necessary steps toward discovery. The quantum gravity pulse system had been developed after dozens of failed prototypes, each teaching something new. A week after the rescue, the Imperial Council convened an extraordinary session. Captain Chen and her crew were summoned to attend, along with Earth's diplomatic team. The chamber fell silent as High Counselor Santi addressed the assembly. For 10,000 years, the ancient Centaurian began. The Empire has maintained that our technological path is the only path to stability and advancement. Today, we must acknowledge that this assumption requires reassessment. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Such an admission was unprecedented. The Earth vessel resilience has demonstrated capabilities our science deemed impossible, Santi continued. More significantly, they used these capabilities to save Imperial lives when our own methods would have failed. Admiral Vextar stepped forward. High Counselor, while I acknowledge the effectiveness of the human intervention, I must caution against embracing unproven technologies. The potential risks of stagnation are greater, Santi interrupted. Our empire has not faced a significant technological challenge in 2,000 years. Perhaps we needed one. The High Counselor turned to Captain Chen. Earth's provisional status within the Empire is hereby elevated. The restrictions on your technological development are lifted. Instead, we propose an exchange. Your quantum theories for our millennial engineering experience. Chen exchanged glances with Dr. Patel before responding. High Counselor, Earth would be honored to share knowledge with the Empire, as equals. Not quite equals, Santi said, with what might have been the Centaurian equivalent of a smile. But perhaps worthy colleagues. In the months that followed, Imperial scientists flocked to Earth to study human approaches to physics, while Earth engineers eagerly learned from the Empire's vast experience. New hybrid technologies emerged, combining Imperial precision with human adaptability. 1 year after the neutron star incident, a new class of ships entered service, designed collaboratively by human and Imperial engineers. They incorporated both the stability the Empire prized and the adaptability humans had perfected. On the maiden voyage of the first such vessel, the Cooperation, Captain Chen stood on the bridge alongside Admiral Vextar, now Earth's strongest advocate within the Imperial hierarchy. I still don't understand why you risked your ship and crew for an Imperial vessel that had dismissed you, Vextar admitted as they prepared for launch. Chen smiled. That's actually very simple, Admiral. Because we could help, we did help. That's a human principle older than any of our technology. A principle, Vextar mused, worth adopting alongside your quantum theories. As the Cooperation accelerated into faster-than-light travel, its hybrid systems functioning in perfect harmony, Chen reflected on how quickly things had changed. The Empire had mocked Earth's prototype ships as primitive and unpredictable. Now, those same flaws were recognized as humanity's greatest strength. The galaxy was learning what Earth had always known. True progress comes not from enforcing a single path, but from embracing many. In the vastness of space, there was room for countless approaches to the same stars.